On the heels of a diplomatic victory in the Middle East, is the Trump administration risking an entirely new conflict, even closer to home? Last night, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth confirmed a ninth U.S. strike on an alleged drug boat. Alleged. This one was the second such strike in the Pacific after a string of strikes on boats in the Caribbean and Atlantic. Those strikes fueling a deepening public rift between President Trump and Venezuelan strongman Nicolas Maduro and Colombian leader Gustavo Petro. This afternoon, Petro said Colombia has been incredibly effective in seizing cocaine on its own, and he accused the U.S. of carrying out extrajudicial executions, a charge repeated in the halls of Congress as well. On Wednesday, Maduro upped the ante, claiming he has 5,000 Russian missiles in, quote, key air defense positions to guarantee peace, unquote. Here's how President Trump put the U.S. position just moments ago.
I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country.
CNN's Kristen Holmes is at the White House for us. Kristen, Trump also suggested expanding some land operations.
Yeah, Jake, this is something he's been flirting with but hasn't yet actually done. One thing was very clear from this roundtable that he hosted, that these strikes are not going to stop anytime soon. And in fact, they appear to just be getting started. And I do want to point out something that you noted, this idea that President Trump and really many of his cabinet secretaries have been talking about these alleged drug cartels, equating them to ISIS of the Western Hemisphere. Well, there is a reason for that. That is because administrations in the past have used a legal workaround to not have to go through Congress when you're talking about armed conflict, and particularly with terrorist organizations like ISIS, like Al-Qaeda. So there's a reason that they continue to link these cartels to those specific terror groups, because it's something that there's a precedent of in the United States. But of course, there are still so many questions as to what exactly is going on with these strikes, not many of which we got answers to today, other than President Trump saying he didn't believe he needed to go to Congress to continue to strike these boats, and then threatening once again to strike on land.
You know, the land is going to be next, and we may go to the Senate, we may go to the Congress and tell them about it. The sea drugs are almost dead, and they can't come in that fast from the land. And the land drugs are much more dangerous for them. It's going to be much more dangerous. You'll be seeing that soon.
Well, he also speculated that if he did, in fact, go to Congress, he wouldn't get much pushback from Republican lawmakers, which seems about right, given what we have seen on most of the things that he has brought to Congress. And one other quick note, he did flatly deny the idea that B-1 bombers were flying off the coast of Venezuela. Of course, that is something we and other outlets have been reporting, that this American B-1 Lancer bomber was flying off the coast as these escalations have increased between Venezuela and the United States. He said it was false, but then added that Washington is very unhappy with Venezuela.
Joining us now, Republican from Texas, Congressman Dan Crenshaw. He's a former Navy SEAL. He serves on the House Intelligence Committee. And Congressman, obviously you're very familiar with Venezuela. You lived in Colombia. In 2019, you told CBS News that Congress should have buy-in if there was any consideration of U.S. boots on the ground in Venezuela. And even then, you cited an extreme reason, genocide. And you said you preferred other countries in the region to take the lead militarily. So President Trump said he doesn't need to ask Congress to strike alleged drug traffickers as he's been doing. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's been upheld many times, from Barbary pirates under Jefferson to Ronald Reagan in Libya to Barack Obama in Libya. It has been upheld that War Powers Act allows the president to engage in that kind of self-defense, and that a war would be defined as a prolonged occupation of that country. So, that's quite a big difference from what's happening now. Striking known designated terrorists carrying drugs, and we do have 100% certainty that intelligence is correct. Striking those in international waters. We're a very far cry from going beyond the legal ability of the president.
There are critics, of course, who say that President Trump is taking powers to combat terrorists and using them to address drug traffickers, which in their view is a criminal matter. Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, he has issues with the legality of the strikes. Take a listen.
I really think that You cannot have a policy where you just allege that someone is guilty of something and then kill them. We interdict ships all the time off the coast of Miami, off the coast of California, and the Coast Guard statistics say that about 25% of the boats that we stop to search don't have any drugs. So if 1 out of 4 of the boats don't have drugs on them, you know, what kind of person would justify blowing up people when 1 out of 4 boats may well not have drugs on them?
What's your response, sir?
The senator just, hasn't gotten the briefings that he probably needs to get. One, you're never going to interdict your way out of the drug trafficking coming out of the Caribbean, and we're losing tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Americans to fentanyl deaths. Even if it's just cocaine or marijuana, that enriches the Mexican cartels that really control over all of this, so that they can continue pushing fentanyl into our streets. The second thing is we don't make mistakes. We don't make mistakes 1 out of 4. We just don't. Not in this case. We do have 100% certainty of each of these strikes. That I can tell you. So, look, you're never going to interdict your way out. That's extremely expensive and resource intensive, and it hasn't worked for decades. So the idea of trying something new, and yes, it is against a terrorist organization. They act like terrorists, that's for sure. And you can quibble about whether it's criminal or terroristic activity. In the end, we have all the authority we need to strike them.
So, if they're terrorists and the Trump administration intelligence that they're using is 100% accurate, why were 2 of the survivors of a recent strike returned to their home countries of, I believe, Ecuador and Colombia?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the administration what the thought process is there, but it doesn't.
So
doesn't mean they weren't doing what we think they were doing.
The fentanyl is obviously a serious issue, but the fentanyl's not coming from Venezuela and Colombia. The fentanyl's coming from China via Mexico, as you know better than I do. So how is striking cocaine dealers or cocaine narco-terrorists, assuming that's who these people are, related to the fentanyl and opioid deaths in the U.S., which are obviously tragic?
Well, I thought I explained that in my earlier comment. So it's all connected. The people who control all of this entire system are the heads of the Mexican drug cartels, right? They're the ones who go down to Colombia, they make those contracts, they make sure it's shipped up. They're the ones making all the money in the end. The old days of Pablo Escobar running the Medellin cartel and Cali, that's all over, right? So only the suppliers and just poor farmers are the ones making the cocaine and then sending it out. So whether cocaine is killing people or not, the fact is it's enriching the cartels, and the cartels, of course, enrich themselves to wreak havoc on Mexico, which happens to be our biggest trading partner and neighbor. So I think we have an interest in ensuring that Mexico does not devolve into a narco-terrorist state the way Colombia was back in the 80s and 90s. So it's a little bit more intricate than you might suggest. All of these things are connected.